I came back to the office expecting a promotion. Instead, I found my entire team erased from the floor plan overnight, our desks gone, our names wiped off the system, and a golden hire sitting in my chair, telling me I was no longer needed. That's when I realized this wasn't a replacement. It was a purge. I stepped out of the elevator on the 18th floor expecting the usual morning chaos, coffee machines buzzing, engineers debating over screens, and Mia calling out sarcastic updates from across the room. Instead, I was met with silence. Too much silence. The glass doors to our engineering section were still there, but the energy behind them was gone. No keyboards tapping. No whiteboards filled with chaotic equations. Just empty desks, perfectly cleaned, like we had never existed there in the first place. My stomach tightened. "Morning, Ethan," a voice said behind me. Mia. She stood near the hallway printer, arms crossed, eyes sharper than usual. But there was something off, something unsettled. "Where is everyone?" I asked immediately. She hesitated. "That's what I was about to ask you." We walked inside the office together. That's when I saw it. Our entire team section had been wiped clean. Not reorganized, not renovated. Erased. Even the small personal things, coffee mugs, sticky notes, a dumb plant Jake insisted on naming, were gone. Only faint rectangular marks on the desks remained, like ghosts of our presence. And then I saw it. A new glass-walled office had been built overnight at the center of the floor. Inside sat a man I had never seen before. Mid-30s, sharp suit, calm smile. He was arranging framed certificates like he owned the building. Mia leaned closer to me. "So that's him," she whispered. "Logan Pierce." Before I could respond, a familiar voice echoed from behind the glass. "Ah, you must be Ethan Walker." Logan didn't stand. He didn't need to. Everything about him screamed confidence without effort. "We've restructured the engineering division," he said casually, like he was talking about rearranging furniture. "Your team's been reassigned to a more suitable environment." My jaw tightened. "Reassigned where?" He smiled slightly wider. "The lower innovation floor, basement level." For a moment I thought I misheard him. Mia's eyes narrowed. "The basement doesn't even have proper engineering infrastructure." Logan finally looked at her. "Then I suppose your team will adapt." Something inside me shifted. Not anger yet, but something colder, calculated. As we left the glass office, Mia grabbed my arm. "This isn't normal, Ethan," she said quietly. "First the budget cuts, then client delays, and now this? Something is happening above us." I didn't answer right away, because she was right. 3 days ago, our biggest client, Northbridge Systems, had suddenly reduced communication to almost zero. No explanation, just silence, like we had become irrelevant overnight. And now this. We reached the elevator. As it closed, I saw Logan through the glass again. He was already speaking to upper management on a video call, smiling, like he had won something we didn't even know we were competing for. When the elevator doors shut, Mia exhaled sharply. "They didn't just move us," she said. "They replaced us." I stared at the floor indicator lights dropping lower. "Yeah," I said quietly, "and I want to know why." But deep down, I already knew. This wasn't just a relocation. It was a removal. And something much bigger was coming. The basement didn't feel like part of the company. It felt like somewhere buildings send things they no longer want. The air was damp, heavy with the smell of old ventilation systems and dust that no one bothered to clean. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting uneven shadows across rows of temporary desks made of folded tables. When I arrived with the team, silence hit first, then disbelief. Jake Carter, our youngest engineer, stood frozen near a leaking pipe. He was 24, thin, with messy blonde hair and tired eyes that made him look older than he was. This is where we work now?" he asked quietly. No one answered him. Finola Reyes, our lead developer, dropped her laptop bag onto a chair and laughed once, sharp, humorless. She was in her early 30s, sharp-featured, always dressed in black hoodies, and known for saying exactly what others were afraid to. "I've seen startup garages better than this," she muttered. Mia didn't speak much at first. She just walked slowly along the wall, her fingers lightly brushing old water stains as if reading them. Mia was in her late 30s, tall, lean, always composed, but today her posture was different, more rigid, more alert. "They didn't relocate us," she finally said. "They downgraded us." I didn't argue, because she was right. A burst pipe dripped steadily into a metal bucket near Vega Thompson's desk. Vega was 58, a hardware specialist with a thick gray beard and hands permanently stained with ink and grease from decades of engineering work. He stared at the ceiling and laughed bitterly. 30 years in tech, and I end up in a basement that leaks like a broken sink. Despite everything, I forced the team into motion. "Listen," I said firmly, "we keep working, no matter where we are." Some looked at me like I was asking too much, Jake especially. He didn't hide his frustration. "This feels like the end," he whispered to Mia later. "Maybe I should start looking elsewhere." I overheard it but didn't respond immediately. Instead, I handed out tasks: documentation, system mapping, backup protocols. Finola raised an eyebrow. "You're acting like we're preparing to leave." "We are preparing," I said calmly, "just not in the way they expect." Mia began quietly documenting everything, not just code changes, but emails, meeting notes, leadership decisions. Her calm expression didn't change, but her eyes sharpened every time she typed something new. Something was building inside her, anger, but controlled, focused. Above us, the company kept moving like nothing had happened. Below us, something else was forming. And I was making sure we wouldn't be the ones crushed when it collapsed. The first sign that something was wrong wasn't in the basement, it was above us. A sudden shift in tone from leadership emails. Words like transformation, visionary leadership, and future-forward restructuring were repeated like a mantra. And always, at the center of those messages, was Logan Pierce. We were not invited to the executive presentation, but we could hear it through the ventilation system that connected the basement to the upper floors. His voice carried confidence, smooth, rehearsed, almost theatrical. Above, in the glass boardroom, Logan stood before the leadership team. He was a tall man in his late 30s, with perfectly styled dark hair and a navy suit that looked tailored to perfection. Everything about him was designed to impress at first glance. "Productivity is not about effort," he said, pacing slowly. "It's about redesigning human flow." A few executives nodded. In the basement, Mia leaned against a pillar, arms crossed. Her face was calm, but her eyes were locked upward, as if she could see through the ceiling. "That's not engineering language," she muttered. "That's marketing." Next to me, Jake Carter was staring at his screen but not working. The glow reflected off his tired face. He looked more drained every day, like something inside him was slowly shutting down. But something else was happening outside the company walls. A notification came in, then another, then another. Northbridge Systems, one of our largest clients, had submitted a formal complaint about delayed updates and declining system stability. Then came another client, Horizon Data Group, then another. Finola exhaled sharply. "That's 3 major accounts in less than a week." She wasn't wrong, and upstairs Logan was still speaking. "We've already seen a 200% efficiency potential increase," he announced confidently. But I knew something he didn't. Efficiency projections mean nothing when real systems start breaking. Mia pulled me aside later that day. She looked different, more focused than usual, like she hadn't slept properly. "I found something," she said quietly. She slid her laptop toward me. On the screen were internal employment records from Logan's previous company. "Before he came here," she continued, "he was at a firm called Westbridge Solutions." Her finger tapped the screen. "Same pitch, same terminology, same claims." "And?" I asked. "They fired him after their system collapsed under his restructuring model." That was the moment the pattern became clear. Logan didn't build systems. He replaced them with illusions. Above us, applause echoed faintly through the ceiling. Below us, our systems were beginning to crack under decisions we never made. And I realized something important. This wasn't just about being moved to the basement anymore. It was about watching a company slowly believe in its own collapse. The basement had become something more than a workplace. It was now a command center that no one upstairs understood. While Logan continued presenting his polished vision above us, I quietly began building something he couldn't see coming. That afternoon, I made a call I hadn't made in years. "Ethan Walker," a familiar voice answered after 3 rings. "I thought you disappeared into corporate comfort." It was Olivia Grant. She was now a director of engineering at a competing firm based in Seattle. I remembered her as someone sharp enough to see through people instantly, tall, confident, always dressed in simple black blazers that made her look sharper than she needed to be. Her tone had always carried a mix of sarcasm and precision, like she was constantly calculating the truth behind every sentence. "I need a favor," I said. A pause. "That sounds dangerous," she replied. "It is." She didn't ask for details right away. That was her style. Observe first, strike later. Back in the basement, things were shifting. Jake Carter, who had been quiet and withdrawn for days, started staying late. He was rebuilding broken scripts, tightening system logs, his hands moving faster than his thoughts. Something in him had changed, not confidence yet, but direction. "I don't want to just quit anymore," he said one night without looking up. "I want to understand why everything is breaking." Mia noticed it too. She didn't comment, but I saw her watching him differently, like she was measuring potential instead of frustration. Meanwhile, Mia and I worked on something deeper. Not code, not systems. Evidence. We compiled internal performance data, client impact reports, and decision timelines. Every resource allocation Logan approved, every system degradation that followed. Mia worked with surgical focus. Her calm expression never changed, but I noticed something new in her, restraint turning into precision, as if she had stopped reacting and started calculating. "This isn't just incompetence," she said quietly while reviewing logs. "It's a pattern." "Exactly," I replied. Late that night, Olivia texted back, "Send me what you have, but if this is what I think it is, you're sitting on something big enough to burn a department down." I looked at the basement. Dim lights, leaking pipe, exhausted team slowly waking up again. "Good," I replied, "because it needs to." Above us, Logan was still building his illusion. Below us, we were building the truth. And this time, we were making sure it couldn't be ignored. The collapse didn't begin with an explosion. It began with a silence after applause that never came. The executive auditorium on the 20th floor was packed. Logan Pierce stood at the center, dressed sharper than ever, his confidence almost theatrical. The screen behind him displayed glowing charts, upward arrows, and words like "revolutionary scaling framework." But something was off. I was not in the room, but Mia was. She had been invited under the pretense of data verification support, though I suspected it was more about control than inclusion. Mia sat in the second row. Beside her was an HR observer named Caroline Hughes, a woman in her mid-40s with tightly curled blonde hair, a navy dress suit, and a permanent expression of forced politeness. Caroline had a reputation for compliance enforcement, calm voice, sharp decisions, zero tolerance for internal dissent. Logan clicked to the final slide. "By Q3, he announced, we project full system transformation with a 200% efficiency gain." A few executives nodded. Then came the question from a board advisor, a man named Richard Hale, late 50s, tall, heavy-built, with tired eyes that suggested he had survived too many failed restructures. "How exactly," Richard asked slowly, "do you account for the recent instability reports from key clients?" A pause. Logan smiled. "Temporary friction, expected in any transition." Mia's fingers tightened around her tablet, because she knew what he was calling friction was actually system degradation. Back in the basement, alerts started coming in. Northbridge Systems had initiated emergency review protocols. Horizon Data Group had paused all integration pipelines. Then, silence from a third major client. Jake looked up from his screen. "This is getting worse." For the first time, his voice didn't sound uncertain. It sounded alert. Above us, Logan continued speaking, unaware that the foundation beneath him was cracking in real time. Then it happened. A system dashboard froze on the projector, then another. Then the entire live demo collapsed into error logs. A murmur spread through the room. Logan's smile didn't disappear, but it stiffened. "I'll have IT resolve that immediately," he said. But Richard Hale leaned forward. "No," he said quietly. "I think we need to pause this." Silence hit the room like a weight. At that exact moment, Mia stood up. Caroline immediately turned toward her. "Ms. Reyes, please remain seated." But Mia didn't sit. "I need to correct something," she said calmly. Her voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the room. And for the first time, Logan turned fully toward her. Below us, in the basement, my screen lit up with a single message from Mia. "It's starting." And I knew. This wasn't a presentation failure. This was a system beginning to reject its own illusion. The moment Mia's message arrived, "It's starting," I knew the company had crossed the point of no return. But what no one upstairs realized yet was that we had already built our escape route. That night I gathered the team in the deepest corner of the basement, where the flickering light was the weakest, and the noise from the pipes almost drowned out conversation. It felt like a place meant for secrets. One by one they arrived. Jake Carter was the first. He looked different now, less lost, more alert. The exhaustion was still there, but it had been replaced by something sharper, like he had finally chosen a direction instead of drifting. Finola followed, arms crossed, expression unreadable but attentive as always. Vega came last, moving slowly, his weathered face showing both curiosity and suspicion. Mia wasn't physically with us, she was still upstairs, but her presence felt embedded in everything we were about to do. I placed a folder on the table. "We have an option," I said. Silence. Then I opened it. Inside were official offer letters from Olivia Grant's company in Seattle. Competitive salaries, better infrastructure, full autonomy, and most importantly, respect. Finola was the first to break the silence. "So this is it? We just walk away?" "No," I said. "We choose where we can actually build something without being erased." Jake leaned forward, scanning the document. His fingers trembled slightly, not from fear but disbelief. "This is real?" "Yes." Vega let out a low whistle. "After 30 years in this industry, I didn't think I'd see a company actually want engineers instead of just results." But the most important reaction didn't come immediately. It came from Jake. He looked down for a long moment, then shook his head. "I'm not going," he said quietly. Everyone turned to him. He exhaled. "I started here with nothing. If I leave now, I'll always feel like I ran when things got hard." He looked at me directly. "I'm staying, but I'm not staying for them. I'm staying to finish what we started." A silence followed, heavy but respectful. Then Finola surprised everyone. "Kid's insane," she muttered. Then she smirked. "But I respect it." At the same time, upstairs in a glass office I could never enter, Mia stood beside Olivia Grant. Olivia was even more striking in person. Tall, composed, with sharp green eyes and a silver streak in her dark hair that made her look like someone who had survived too many boardrooms and come out sharper each time. "I want her on my team," Olivia said after reviewing Mia's files. "She doesn't just analyze systems, she understands people inside them." Mia didn't react immediately. She just asked, "Even if this place collapses?" Olivia smiled slightly. "Especially then." Back in the basement, I closed the folder. "Then it's decided," I said. "Some of us were leaving, some of us were staying. But none of us were being ignored anymore. And that changed everything." The boardroom on the top floor felt colder than usual, not because of the temperature, but because of what was about to be exposed. I walked in at exactly 9 a.m. Every seat was filled. At the head of the table sat Evelyn Hart, the company's chief executive officer, a woman in her early 50s with sharp silver blonde hair tied into a tight bun. She had a calm, almost surgical expression, the kind of leader who didn't react quickly because she preferred consequences over emotions. Beside her were board members, and among them I noticed Talia Mercer again, elegant, dark-skinned, mid-40s, wearing a structured white blazer. She represented an external investment group and had a reputation for rebuilding failing tech divisions. Logan Pierce was already there. He looked different now. The confidence from before had thinned, replaced by controlled tension. And Mia. She stood near the side of the room holding a tablet like it weighed more than data. Evelyn nodded once. "Ethan Walker, you may begin." I placed my folder on the table. "This isn't a defense," I said. "It's a timeline." The first slide showed resource allocation shifts, then system degradation patterns, then client withdrawal sequences. Whispers began almost immediately. Then I moved to the next section. Our engineering team contributed 74% of system stability outputs over the last fiscal year, I said calmly. Logan shifted in his seat. "That's impossible," he interrupted. But I didn't stop, because Mia stepped forward. Her presence changed the room instantly. Not loud, not aggressive, just precise. She connected her tablet to the board display. "What you're seeing," she said, "is the full internal audit trail." Her voice was steady, but her eyes were sharper than anything in the room. She displayed emails, restructuring decisions, ignored risk warnings. And then the moment that shifted everything. A client representative entered the room. Daniel Rhodes, CEO of Northbridge Systems, mid-50s, tall, heavy coat still on, face exhausted like someone who hadn't slept in weeks. "We are here for one reason," he said flatly. "Our contract stability depends on one team." He pointed, directly at us. Silence. Logan stood up abruptly. "That's not how enterprise partnerships work." Daniel cut him off. "It is when your system only works when they're involved." Mia didn't look at Logan anymore. She looked at the board. "This isn't about blame," she said. "It's about structure failure." Evelyn leaned back slowly. For the first time, her expression changed. Not shock, but clarity. Talia smiled faintly, as if she had already expected this outcome. And I realized then, this wasn't just a presentation anymore. It was a decision point. The decision didn't come with celebration. It came with silence first. Then resolution. 3 days after the boardroom confrontation, the official announcement was made. Logan Pierce's role was terminated effective immediately. The transformation initiative he built was dismantled piece by piece, like a structure that had looked impressive until someone tested its foundation. I stood in the same glass boardroom where everything had fallen apart, but this time the atmosphere felt different. Lighter. Honest. Evelyn Hart, the CEO, sat across from me. Her silver blonde hair was still perfectly tied, but her expression had softened slightly, as if she had finally stopped carrying a decision she had delayed too long. "You were right," she said simply. "But more importantly, you were prepared." She slid a document toward me. "Department Director, full authority over engineering operations." I didn't answer immediately, because I was looking at my team through the glass walls behind her. And for the first time, I wasn't thinking about survival. I was thinking about structure. A week later, everything changed again. The team split exactly as planned, but not apart in conflict. Apart in design. Half of us stayed under the company, forming a rebuilt engineering division. The other half joined Olivia Grant's Seattle initiative, creating a parallel innovation unit focused on long-term infrastructure stability. But we stayed connected, always connected. In Seattle, Mia was promoted almost immediately. She stood in a bright conference room overlooking the city skyline, wearing a dark gray suit tailored perfectly to her frame. Her presence had changed. Less observer, more strategist. She no longer just documented systems, she designed them. "Strategic Operations Lead," Olivia announced. "She sees failure before it happens." Mia didn't smile much. But when she did, it wasn't hesitation anymore. It was certainty. Jake Carter surprised everyone. The same young engineer who once considered quitting was now leading a junior development team. He was still messy-haired, still young, but something in him had stabilized. Responsibility suited him in a way no one expected. "I used to think survival was the goal," he told me once over a call. "Now I think building something that lasts is." Even Daniel Rhodes, the client who triggered the turning point, renewed contracts. Not just with one company, but both. "For the first time," he said during the signing, "we trust the system because we trust the people behind it." Months later, I stood between two offices, two cities, two teams, one shared structure. And I realized something simple. We didn't escape the system. We changed the way it had to treat people like us. No more basements, no more erasure, only recognition. And for the first time in a long time, it stayed that way. So now I have to ask you, was what we did justice, or just revenge dressed up as strategy? We exposed the truth. We rebuilt the system. We saved the team. But we also broke everything that stood in our way. So tell me, if you were me, would you stay and fix the company from inside? Or walk away and build something new somewhere else? Was Logan the real problem, or just a symptom of a broken system? I really want to know what you think. Leave a comment below. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more intense workplace stories like this.